A couple of days ago, I was sitting around thinking about the conversation around Paul George and Kawhi Leonard potentially getting contract extensions. And while I ignored it and just said, that's a bad idea, why would you extend them a couple of weeks ago? I started to realize some things that I was overlooking. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the if 213 wants extensions, what happens, the risks of playing hardballs, and the potential possibilities on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team, every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in Los Angeles, going into my 19th season as a Clipper fan this fall. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, NBA, and NBA history content. And of course, Locked On Clippers is free and available on all your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube, where I want you to tell me what you think of the conversation that I'm about to have in this episode. The possibilities based on if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George want extensions. So, going to talk about that, the risks of playing hardball, and just lay out a lot of possibilities. So, try to keep up with me best you can. I'm more worried about myself and trying to keep up with me. So I don't want to get too lost in all these possibilities, but let's just start out, right? So a couple weeks ago, when Howard Beck was on the show and first talked about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are extension eligible, I was thinking to myself right away, that's a ridiculous proposition for them with the contracts that they're on already to be wanting new contracts to guarantee them money past the first year in the Intuit Dome, which is 2024-25, so the year after this upcoming season, is ludicrous given their injury history and the fact that they're only going to be getting older. But I thought about it some more. As of now, everyone seems to think that the plan is that we're going to let them play out their contracts and then reassess next season. They have a player option for about around $50 million, basically. I think the exact number is like $48 million. Both of them, Paul George and Kawhi, I would assume they're going to opt in because I don't think they're going to make that kind of money in a single season ever again. But they have a choice whether they can opt in or opt out. They can opt out and say, I want a new contract that guarantees me more money past this year and I want it now. But right now, it seems like the plan is to let them play out the contract this season, which is the last guaranteed year on their deal, and then we reassess next year. Even if they opt in and want to stay, which I presume that they will, given that they both came here, new stadium, they like being on the Clippers. But who knows what the Clippers will want to do if this season does not go according to plan, whatever that plan may be for the Clippers. Because, I don't know if anyone's going to be coming out in training camp. And, of course, within the locker room, it's going to be a championship kind of attitude from what they say, not necessarily how they act. But they're going to be preaching championship in training camp. I feel like most teams that think they have a realistic shot do. But fans and media members, I don't think they're going to be puffing their chests out saying the Clippers are going to go all the way or go super deep in the playoffs this year, just given the health of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George over the last 4 years since they've come here. But let's think about this, right? If extensions aren't asked by Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, you just proceed, no problem. But what if they are? What if 213 actually wants extensions? So, in my opinion, they absolutely do not deserve it because of their injury history. So let's say the Clippers play hardball, right? They have a couple of options. Either they play hardball and say, no, we're not giving you an extension, and Paul George and Kawhi say, we understand, and then they proceed. That way, there's no problems at all. We just play out the contract like the plan was originally put out to be. But then there's the off chance that, let's say we say no to them for an extension. What if that upsets Paul George and Kawhi Leonard? What if they're saying, you guys are not putting any trust in us as the organization. You say we're the franchise players. You market us more than anybody. We're the guys. Why are you not confident in us that we can play past this current contract? Why don't you give us an extension? I doubt, they might be a little upset, that's natural, but if they're so upset that they'll ask out for a trade, is it good to play hardball with them if they're going to ask out for a trade and then that's going to take this whole thing and turn it upside down, and now we have a huge problem on our hands with our franchise players being disgruntled with the front office. And where did we see that this past season? Brooklyn. And it all kind of blew up in their face. But I don't think we want that. We don't want to make them so mad that they ask out. Now, a lot of that's just on the way Kawhi Leonard and Paul George take the news, because I'm hearing not anything more than anyone else is hearing, but it seems like all the initial reports are saying that the Clippers are not really that gung-ho on offering Paul George and Kawhi Leonard extensions, and for good reason. Now, besides asking for a trade, so like let's say Paul George and Kawhi Leonard want to be traded, right? Can you get a good deal for them, considering they only have one more guaranteed year left on their contracts, and depending on where they get sent, they can choose to opt out after this season? So like, for example, with Kawhi, when he went to Toronto, he opted out after the season ended. He didn't want to stay there. Actually, no, I'm not sure if he opted out or if his contract just ran out right there, but he had the choice and he was a one-year rental. Wherever they get traded, how much will a team be willing to give up knowing that they could potentially be on the move? Now, besides a trade, the other option that they have, if they're so upset that they're not getting an extension, is they can just leave in free agency after this season, opt out, and test out with the market. So those are the couple of options they have. But coming up, going to be going into more depth about why playing hardball can potentially be super risky. And I'm going to be going more in depth about a potential trade scenario, how hard it could be, what it all means for the Clippers. Going to be talking about all that coming up. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Thanks for making Locked On Clippers your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow on the show, going to be bringing back Howard Beck, who's had some big news in Clipperland, apparently reported with his name on it. So it'll be interesting to get some answers from Mr. Beck on the Thursday episode. But let's get into the next topic, and that is the risks of playing hardball. Now, let's say you play hardball and 213 now wants a trade. They're like, all right, I'm so mad. I don't even want to play this upcoming season. What does that mean for the Clippers? As I said, it's not the best look to have disgruntled stars, right? Then the problem is they may have 2 years guaranteed on their deal, right? This season and the upcoming season if they want to opt into that big contract, which it's a very good chance that they do because of how much money it really is. But knowing that they could potentially be 1 year rentals, how much are you getting for them when they're disgruntled like that? That's another thing. If they're refusing to play for the Clippers, that puts the Clippers in a spot where they're not playing, you're sucking, you don't really have picks, that's no good. You don't have a Joel Embiid like Philadelphia did. They played hardball with Ben Simmons. They found a good deal for him for James Harden, but they had Embiid killing. So, and I don't think if both of them don't get offered extensions, I don't think Paul George will be upset and want to trade and Kawhi will be playing and vice versa. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to be feeling a similar way. So if they want to trade and they're disgruntled by it, that's not good for the Clippers, which makes me think, should they offer them an extension? How much value? Because how much value do they really have on expiring contracts? Now, the other option, as I referenced earlier, would they leave for free after the season? If we didn't offer them an extension and then it's another bad flameout, there's a strong chance they could. But then again, if the franchise is saying, you guys can come back, first year in the Intuit Dome, they want their stars, then Paul George and Kawhi will likely come back, opt into that $46 million, and play that first year at the Intuit Dome. But, so I don't really think they'd leave for free in the offseason. I really don't. Even if they don't get an extension, I think they'll just test out the market after the Intuit Dome year because they want to be in LA. They want to play with each other unless something happens that really pisses one of them off. My bet is on if one of them gets mad at the other, it's going to be Kawhi getting annoyed with Paul George. I don't think the other way around. But I have a very strong doubt that they will be mad about not getting a contract extension and then leave after the season. Like play out their contract, whatever happens this year happens, we don't win the championship, and they just leave, opt out of that final year of their contract and leave. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. And plus, if let's say Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have a great season this year, go to the conference finals or something and just lose right then and there, they might get a 3-year contract extension from the team. And it's not going to be, for anybody wondering about max deals and super maxes, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George will not be on the All-NBA team because you have to play 65 games minimum to be on that. So I don't think that they're going to be eligible for like a super max or anything like that. So it's going to be a big deal. Okay, that sounded funny. But you know, a nice size chunk of money, but nothing crazy. I think if they play really well this upcoming season, opt out of that final year, and then they get the extension from the Clippers, that's a possibility too. Now, a big reason too that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, it might be in their best interest to opt into that $46 million next season, is who knows how much you're going to get because right now Kawhi Leonard and Paul George Kawhi's turning 32 in a couple of days, so they'll be 33 and 32. Next year at this time, they'll be 34 and 33. How much are people going to pay for those guys at that age, especially another year of probably some wear and tear? I mean, you don't get more healthy when the older you get. I really hope they don't have many injuries this season. Our season depends on it yet again. I really hope so. And obviously, I want them to be healthy as humans. But who knows? Who knows? You know, this upcoming season, it's not like they're going to play every single game. They're going to have some bumps and bruises, and they're going to miss some games. I just hope there's not any serious injuries, as Joey said on the last episode. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. So there's many risks of playing hardball. And the main theme of it all, the umbrella, is what if Paul George and Kawhi just don't like it? So they could ask for a trade. They could threaten to leave in free agency. But you know what? Coming up, going to be assessing how bad it is if they do opt out and leave in free agency if they don't like the news that they won't be getting extended. Going to be talking about that coming up. All right, so finally, to address some of the possibilities, if we extend them, there are two things. Before I get to the what happens if they leave thing, if we do choose to extend Paul George and Kawhi, which I've said I'm against, but I've given some reasons as to why that's a little risky, we make two choices if we extend them. Either we're locked into them for whatever that contract is that we pay them, and we're riding with these guys for the foreseeable future, even going into the Intuit Dome, which I think would be a huge mistake. And then the other option is you pay them, but you still trade them. Now the question is, would it be harder or easier to trade them with an extension given? Now, a part of me says, obviously, it would be harder because who would want to take on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard's contracts at ages 35, 36, 37, especially with their injury history? Then the other part of me says it'll be easier because they're probably going to have to agree with the team that they're trading them to. So that team would know that they're getting them not just for a rental, they're actually getting them for a couple of years. So that makes me think maybe it would be easier. But I overall think it'll probably be harder. I really don't think that many teams are going to be giving up that much for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on a new deal for the foreseeable future, ages 35, 36. I just don't see teams giving up that much. If we want to trade them, so this is why I brought this all up. If we want to trade them, the time to do it is now because We still know Kawhi Leonard can play at an MVP level when healthy, and that's the hesitation from our side of why we don't want to trade him. And then Paul George, we know who he is. He's still a very good player. I don't think his value will get higher next summer or the summer after. So in my opinion, if you want to avoid all these extension talks, then trade them right now and you get some decent value potentially. And as I said, but that brings the question from the beginning, how much are teams willing to pay knowing they could only get them for a rental? Because Kawhi Leonard, I don't know how badly he wants to play anywhere else. Paul George, he'll end up playing. He likes basketball enough that he'll play wherever, but he definitely won't be happy about it. But then, one thing I haven't even talked about yet. If we trade them now to get a vision before the Intuit Dome, while they're still great, so they don't have to leave for free, I don't necessarily know their value, as I just said. But what about that last part? What if they do leave for free? Is it a bad thing? Typically, that's the cardinal sin in the NBA right now. You don't want to let your star players leave for free before you can actually get things for them. Now, the only reason why the Clippers would be gambling with this is if they don't think they can get the right value for them. Because if they just let them become unrestricted free agents, I think they'll have and want them back, I think they'll have either reached an extension or know when they're hitting the market that they're going to re-sign to a new deal with the Clippers next offseason. They won't just let him go into, unrestricted free agent waters without knowing for sure if they're going to come back. I just don't see that happening. I don't think Kawhi and Paul George are going to be like, we're going to reassess and see. Like, you guys chose to come here. So my thing is this. In the small chance that they just leave for free because they don't want to get an extension, or the bigger possibility is not them just leaving for free. It's the Clippers saying, we want to move on from this. I at first thought to myself, losing them for free is a disaster. We have to get something for them. Might as well trade them now, because if it flames out this upcoming season, then they can leave for free. Or we should probably just move off them anyway. I don't know if they'll opt into that last year like Chris Paul did, opt in and then get a trade. I don't know if that helps them at all. Maybe it does if they think they can get big money after that upcoming season. But with their injury history, I would take the money as fast as I can get it. But anyway, then somebody brought up a great point to me. You know what happens if they leave for free? We have cap space for the first time in years. And we're the Clippers. Before, that meant nothing in terms of cap space because nobody would want to come to the Clippers. But now we get big money Ballmer and a brand new stadium. And we've shown that we treat our players pretty well. Except Blake Griffin. I mean, that was a sad situation. And Lou Williams as well. But everyone else, it feels like if we traded them, we traded them to a solid spot. We've revived some guys' careers. I mean, we have been an organization that people want to go to. Players want to play here for us, not just the Lakers. And I don't think that's going to be any different if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard leave. I think we're going to continue to be an attractive destination with Ballmer in the front office. I think anybody, even a professional basketball player, can just see that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George just have bad injury luck. And the Clippers, as a result, having invested in these two guys, have had bad luck in terms of their seasons these last 4 years. But I don't think that's going to discourage any player from coming here. I don't think that's going to discourage a young player to say, oh, the Clippers are cursed, everybody gets hurt. Nah, I don't think that's going to be a thing. I think that if we put our names out there for said free agents with our stadium, with Steve Ballmer, Los Angeles, the biggest draw of all, then we'll be fine. Everybody said that we were not going to be good again after Chris Paul and Blake left. They said we'd go back to being the Clippers. And to them I said, I don't think so, because we have a new owner now. It's not the Sterling era. And to all the people that keep saying to me, oh, when Kawhi Leonard and Paul George leave, you're going to go back to being a basement dweller franchise. I'm afraid not. Things have changed around here. Things have changed. And in this new era, the Clippers are not just doormats. Yes, we get laughed at here and there and have bad luck. That hasn't changed. But we have had 12 consecutive winning seasons, the largest mark in the NBA. Laker fans will laugh. Celtics fans will laugh. Certain fan bases will laugh. There's a lot of fan bases. Sacramento Kings, Minnesota Timberwolves, Charlotte Hornets, New Orleans. I can go on and on. They would kill to have 12 consecutive winning seasons. Things have changed around here, whether the haters want to admit it or not. And even if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, it doesn't work out, the Clippers don't want him back, or they walk away, I think having cap space is not the end of the world, especially with the best arena in basketball set to open up. So let me know what you think of everything I said. I honestly am having a hard time after this 20 minutes keeping up with everything I said. So many scenarios I laid out. I hope I did a job that was slow enough or at least clear enough for you guys to get all the scenarios. But you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more basketball content. And, of course, Locked On Clippers, free and available on all your favorite podcast platforms. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. And let me know what you thought in the pin question of what you thought of these scenarios in regards to extending Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Thanks for making Locked On Clippers your first listen every day. Every day or tomorrow on the show, Howard Beck comes on for his third time to address some big-time rumors in regards to the Clippers, so you will not want to miss that. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.